somebody tells you this is the most complicated conflict in the history, he doesn't know anything about this conflict. This is the most naive conflict in history. It is only about two words: security from one side, freedom from the other side. So simple. My daughters, they speak home together in Arabic. When they entered to the movie, they started speaking English, American accent. And I noticed that all the kids, the Israeli kids, also were speaking to each other in English, in American accent. So these kids, they listen to the same music, they watch the same movies, they have the same culture, they have the same dreams. In a way or another, these people, maybe in the future, will find themselves going towards a one-state reality. But my daughter told me something when I told her one state or two state. She said anything but the current situation of a two-floor state, where they are in the master floor, we are in the servant floor. I cannot live in this reality. But two states or one state are okay with me.
Welcome to Passages Pulse, where we track the heartbeat of Israel and the Middle East from a Christian perspective. In a time of confusion, division, and misinformation, we're here to help you cut through the noise with truth, clarity, and conviction.
So we have a very special guest this evening, as you are all familiar with. Hopefully at this point, a key part of the Passages program is exploring not just the biblical history of Israel, but also the modern history and the contemporary issues. One of the biggest and arguably most controversial, of course, is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which we're going to be discussing a bit more in the coming days, especially as you visit the October 7 sites on Sunday. And a key part of why we discuss these issues is because we believe at Passages it is very important for Christians to be peacemakers and modeling what that looks like as we represent our faith in the world. A key part of being a peacemaker is actually knowing and having some type of relationship with the people who live this conflict on a daily basis and understanding their perspective, especially if they happen to be people who are actively trying to solve that conflict, as our guest is this evening. So that's why we're having this conversation. We are very privileged to have with us here. I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind pronouncing your full name for me, because I don't want to mispronounce it.
Sinijlawi.
Thank you. I don't think I was going to get that.
Call me Sam.
There we go. Sam works. Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful. He is a remarkable individual. He is a Palestinian political activist and advocate for democratic reform who champions Israeli-Palestinian dialogue and coexistence. He's also a master's student at Hebrew University in conflict resolution. He currently serves as chairman of the Jerusalem Development Fund. Samer is also recognized for his outspoken leadership, notably becoming the only high-profile Palestinian politician to visit the Gaza envelope after October 7, where he publicly condemned Hamas, and later visited the Bibas family during their Shiva, or period of mourning. If you're not familiar, the Bibas family is a family that lost a mother and two very small children, the Bibas boys, two redheads who became famous around the world for their captivity and murder by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And Samer is also a frequent speaker at major forums, previously having led international and Israeli relations for the Fatah Supreme Committee. We'll hear more about that in a moment. And managing ties with key political actors across Europe, the Arab world, and Israel. He's also a widely featured Palestinian voice in Israeli media and other outlets around the world. So please join me in giving him a welcome and thanking him for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you some questions and we'll let the students do the same. In your perspective, just to get us started, what do you think are the sources of the contemporary Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Lack of leadership. If you look, since you are studying the biblical history of this part of the world, you might notice that there has been thousands of years of coexistence between the people who were living here, whatever we called ourselves, because we call ourselves differently in different phases of history, but there has been almost 3,000 years of coexistence. Things went wrong in the last 100 years only. And I think mainly it was lack of leadership or bad leadership. Could be from both sides, it could be from one side, but it is a common dominant in the last 100 years. And let me tell you something, since I am Palestinian who has been very much involved in discovering the other side, and don't trust any expert who will tell you I am an expert in the conflict if he is not able to see this conflict in the eyes of both sides. If you want to understand the conflict, you need to know how does the sides of that conflict see it, react to it, believe in it. And I invested 38 years in my life in trying to discover the Israeli side, the other side. Currently, I am meeting 300, 400 Israelis a week. In groups like this, I came here after speaking to an Israeli group of 50 people from what they call a Mekhinah group, a group of youngsters, 18 years old, who are preparing themselves to join the IDF. And some of them choose to listen to a Palestinian before they go there. So many different types of Israelis I meet. I speak to Israel from wall to wall. The right, the center, the left, academia, media, political elite. If we want to forecast or predict who is the coming cabinet in Israel in the coming elections, I think more or less it is clear. We can see, for example, Bennett to be prime minister, Lapid foreign minister, Eisenkot defense minister, Lieberman finance minister, and Golan minister of interior security. I'm talking to all of them. And Bennett is a center-right religious leader. He's not, a leftist. So, maybe talking to them directly or sometimes indirectly through some associates. So I can a little bit tell you that I understand how the future political elite of Israel will think. I understand how the average Israeli, the young, the old, the Haredi, the Ashkenazi, all types of Israeli. Sometimes I joke with my Israeli friends and I tell them, listen, I know you better than you know yourselves because I talk to all of you, you don't talk to each other. But this is a very important knowledge. One of the challenges and one of the roots for this conflict is lack of understanding of the other side, mistrust, in addition to the accumulated hard feelings. So there are so many reasons, but let's go back to history. There was coexistence, and since I know the Israelis and Palestinians, I'll tell you something. The Palestinian and the Israeli people are more ready for coexistence than their leaders. The problem is with the leadership, because maybe the current situation serves certain political agendas. Maybe it gives political lifeline to certain leadership on both sides. Look at about our leader, Abbas. Speaking on Palestinian leadership, we have been led in the last 100 years by 3 leaders only. Maybe in the USA you have been led by 20 presidents in this period of 100 years, all of them elected. We have been led by 3 leaders almost appointing themselves as leaders. Haj Amin al-Husseini, who chose to be closer to the Nazis, Arafat, and then Mahmoud Abbas. The current leader, Mahmoud Abbas, 21 years in power. At the age of 92, he has dealt with 7 Israeli prime ministers during his rule. 50% of the Israeli prime ministers in its history, in the history of Israel. And he has dealt with another 7 American presidents. Didn't succeed with any of them. At the age of 92, he still wants to keep trying. He doesn't want to leave power. Last month, he held the Congress of Fatah. I am a Fatah guy, by the way, mainstream, but I am the voice of opposition to the leadership. Last month, he forced his son up to the Central Committee of Fatah, the highest leadership level, preparing for succession. So this is the kind of leadership that we have. So lack of leadership, ignorance, hard feelings, all of them accumulated in keeping this conflict going on. If somebody tells you this is the most complicated conflict in the history, he doesn't know anything about this conflict. This is the most naive conflict in history. It is only about 2 words: security from one side, freedom from the other side. So simple. To explain to you how naive is this conflict, I'll give you one story. There was a guy called Abdulaziz Rantisi. This guy was one of the establishing members of Hamas. He was assassinated by Israel in the 90s. This guy, his father comes, before going to Gaza, he comes from a small village in Israel called Yavne. Yavne is a Jewish village. Next to it is a Palestinian village called Rantis. That's why his name is Rantisi, from Rantis. But he has a family problem in Rantis, so he moved and lived in Yavne. His father, before 1948, when there was a war that led to the establishment of Israel and the question of the Palestinian refugees, his father was married to 2 women. We Muslims can marry more than 1 woman. One of them, the mother of Rantisi, a Muslim woman. The other one was a Jewish woman. In the same house, there were siblings, sisters and brothers, half of them Jews, half of them Muslim. following the mother. All of them call the same man father. They eat at the same table every lunch and dinner and breakfast. When the war erupted in 1948, Rantisi, the father, wanted to leave to Gaza. It was a wave of refugees, you know. His Jewish woman, a Jewish wife, told him, listen, I am a Jew, my kids are Jews. Let us stay here in the home. We safeguard the home. You can take your Muslim wife, your Muslim kids, and leave. And then when things settle down back, you will come. And that's what has happened. In one night, 50% of the family became Israeli Jews. The other 50% became Palestinian refugees in Gaza. One of them became a leader of Hamas. Most probably, one of his siblings was in the army that assassinated him. Very naive. You can't understand why. Overnight, things like this happen. But I think it's all the things that I have explained to you.
I think one of the challenges today as well, it seems to be very problematic, is the competition for defining what exactly it means to be Palestinian. You have a whole spectrum, obviously. On one side, organizations like Hamas, and the other side of the spectrum, the more secular nationalist conception of what Palestinian identity is, and that intra-Palestinian competition is at times can even be violent. I mean, it's very intense. Can you maybe break down for us what are the different factions within Palestinian nationalism, Palestinian politics, and explain what defines some of these various ends of the spectrum?
Well, this is not related to identity, because I think it applies also in the Israeli society, where now also some Israelis are wondering who exactly represents Zionism. Is it Smotrich, Ben-Gvir? Is it more, even there is a debate, but nobody can doubt that all the Israelis see themselves as a Jewish nation, and all the Palestinians see themselves as Palestinian. The identity is there.
So
now, the political difference...
Then, if we can. I actually want to pause there because you're pushing back in the question, so maybe we should reframe the question and then come back to this. Before we get into the divisions, what is it that unifies Palestinians then and makes every Palestinian think of themselves as a Palestinian?
The link to the land. It's the same that brings all the Israelis together, the link to the same land. And here, one of the issues that has been also pushing this conflict is the kind of narratives that we are using. And I think we need to change the narratives. It's not only changing leadership, we need also to change the narratives. We, the Palestinians, need to recognize the historical links of Jews to this land, because it is a fact. Why do we argue on something that historically was proven? If we open and read our Quran, our holy book, in the biggest chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, we can see all the Jewish history that links Jews to this land. We deny the link to the land because we think politically we will lose. But this is short-sighted, because while we are recognizing their historical links to the land, they need also to recognize that they have never been alone here, that there was always others, and these others are the Palestinians. So this kind of link to the land is what brings the national identity. I agree with you, there is a division politically. Don't all of us Palestinians think the same, but I want to make sure for you that the majority, the mainstream of Palestinians are moderate, are pragmatic, people who would like just to live a normal life, very loyal to their cause, to their sense of nationality, but their voice is very loud, very low, and the extremists on the Palestinian side, like Hamas, their voice is very loud. What we need to do is to try to gain strength on the mainstream and have our voice louder. I think such a change is a must. There is a lot of things that we need to do as Palestinians, mainly starting with changing the narrative. Second, we need to change our strategy. Currently, the Palestinian strategy is based on trying to pressure Israel. Pressuring Israel through using violence on the ground, but also mobilizing diplomatically the world against Israel. It is a broken strategy. 80 years it did not work. Something I learned about the Israelis, the more you pressure them, the more they become stubborn. What we need is not to pressure. We need to persuade. We need to convince. Luckily, we the Palestinians possess a unique power that no other nation has in the world. We are the only nation that can convince the Israelis that there is a partner on the Palestinians. You Americans cannot convince them that there are partners on the Palestinians. It's only us that have this power. And it's doable, even after the 7th of October. Look in the recent history, in the October 70s war, where the Israelis hated the Egyptians like nobody else, because there was a war that costed them 3,800 soldiers. But when the leader of Egypt came to the Knesset, in 1 hour, he changed the public opinion in Israel 180 degrees. They started their love story with the Egyptians at that time because of the Sadat, because of his powerful speech in the Knesset where he addressed directly the Israeli opinion and promised them to open a new chapter of peace and cooperation. And they trusted him, they believed him. So we the Palestinians, we need our Sadat moment. We need to look at our Sadat moment and see how we can change the hard feelings that is dominating on both sides. You know, one of my observations on the Trump plan, by the way, I support the Trump plan. If there are some Democrats here who don't like it, it's a fact. I support. I think it's the only game in town. I had relations more with senior Democrats during Biden than now with Trump, but yet I think Trump has done what nobody else could have done. Stopping the war in Gaza, something that he deserves to receive credit to. I lost.
Thank you. I want to maybe pick up and come back to my original question then about the divisions within Palestinian politics. I mean, it's very interesting every time we speak to hear your thoughts on how much support do these factions actually have. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, if you could maybe just explain briefly, let's pretend that Hamas and Fatah are the two sort of ends of the spectrum. And in the middle, there's other groups as well. The two dominant players in Palestinian politics for decades have been Hamas and Fatah. What separates the two?
I'll tell you what is in common by the two. What is in common by the two, the fed up of Palestinians from both Hamas and Abbas. Palestinians are fed up from the destruction that Hamas brought upon them and from the corruption that Abbas has brought upon them. What is in common with them that they did not succeed to satisfy the needs of the Palestinians. Neither Hamas, neither Abbas built up a regime in the West Bank and Gaza that satisfied the need of the Palestinian people. What divides them is simply a war over power. One uses the Islam as a slogan, the other uses, well, moderation, but a fake moderation, a very fake moderation. Somebody can still give Abbas a title of being moderate. This is very, very unfair. Moderate leader does not impose himself 21 years over his people. A moderate leader does not live in a palace in Amman with his family. A moderate leader does not fly his family to Doha to attend the World Cup football games while 1.2 million kids at the age of his grandkids are without drinkable water in Gaza. I can give you a lot of examples about how corrupt he is, how is detached he is from the reality of the Palestinian people. None of them is an honest. Abbas and Hamas is the two sides of the coin. Each one gives himself a different mask, but they want to control, and they want power, and they don't care about the needs of the Palestinian people. I don't agree with you that, okay, they are controlling, they have a monopoly over the political regimes in the West Bank and Gaza, but they have lost the popularity among the people. Today, if a third way, and by the way, I am starting now my own political party, I am calling it New Path, which is exactly what we need, a new path. Not Abbas, not Hamas. This party and similar parties will be the choice of the majority of Palestinians in any national election. We are not having national elections, unfortunately, because he is blocking it. And we have been trying to advocate the international community that endorses him. This is another issue between me and the Biden administration. Biden administration endorsed him a lot, exaggerated in endorsing him. Blinken was meeting him every second month. Okay, Trump boycotted the relation with him, but still the rest of the West, Canada, Austria, Australia, Europe, they are still applauding to that man. And when we discuss the issue of pushing the national elections, the response we get from the policymakers in Washington, D.C., in Berlin, in Paris, in London, this is internal issues and we don't interfere. Fine. Why do you interfere in the textbooks? The whole international community now is pushing a change of textbooks. Why do you interfere in the salaries, the pay to slay, the whole international? I am not against your interference. We need to change the books. We need to stop paying salaries. But
let's clarify what you mean by that, because I'm not sure everyone in the room fully understands the context. One is the issue of incitement in the textbooks. The textbooks given to Palestinian school children. It's a very controversial issue that UNRWA supposedly put in the textbook various forms of incitement to violence against Jews or Zionists or Israelis or whatever you want to call them. The second one, pay to slay, that he's referring to is that for many years, Palestinian Authority has offered a salary of some kind, or a stipend to family members of individuals who have been arrested and convicted of terrorism. So it's colloquially referred to as pay to slay because it is given to the family of someone who has been convicted of terrorism. And these are issues that, yes, to Samer's point, there's been a lot of international controversy and attempts to intervene regarding, but I just want to briefly, sorry to interrupt, clarify what he's talking about so you understand. If you want to continue, please.
so these are internal issues and they are interfering in some internal issues. For God's sake, interfere in the whole package. Why do you pick and choose? Why, when it comes to the Palestinian democracy, you lower the bar? The keystone for all these problems and phenomena is changing leadership. Do you think that changing the textbooks will solve the problem? I can guarantee you it will not. You can change the textbooks, but you will not control the discussion inside the classroom. The textbooks in Israel, they don't have any incitement. Yet there is a lot of hatred through discussion in some classrooms. So this is a life example that you need a change from the roots, from inside. You need the leadership that start addressing its own people first of all in an honest way. Saying we need to change the narrative. Saying that violence does not pay us. It plays against us. Okay, it's not only a moral issue, it is also, let's be pragmatic. We need to change the tools. We need to change the direction. I don't need to defeat the Israelis. They are not the enemy. I need to defeat the fear inside their hearts. Most of the Israelis are against any political settlement with the Palestinians now out of security concerns, not out of ideology. This is the main challenge that is facing us. We can overcome it, and here I will come back to what I have missed when I said I have some comment over Trump plan. Trump plan is focusing on the reconstruction of Gaza. The damage that has happened on the 7th of October and the war after the 7th of October was not only on infrastructures and buildings and homes. The damage in the hearts is more severe. So parallel to reconstruction, we need reconciliation. I'm sure that despite some conflict resolution theories that says when you have a political settlement of a conflict, you will start a reconciliation process, it will succeed. In our case, we need to start first with the reconciliation. When we achieve reconciliation, it will be easy to achieve political settlement of this conflict. So the Palestinian elections is key issue. Always I say that we Israelis and Palestinians have been one Israeli election, one Palestinian election away from peace.
Can I push back on that a little bit?
Yeah.
I think you and I talked about this in other settings, so you know probably what I'm going to ask you. We Americans love our polls when we try to understand politics, and if you look at the polling data, the survey data of the Palestinian public, I mean, it's been years since there's been any poll that would suggest that someone other than a leader of Hamas would win an election if one were held today. Probably one of the reasons why Abbas has not had elections in many years is because he would consistently lose to Hamas, the organization responsible for October 7, and I think that creates this interesting conundrum for outsiders looking in to Palestinian politics, trying to understand who are Palestinians going to put forward, who would actually be the magic bullet. One election away candidate who can solve these issues. If it would seem that, again, for many, many years, Hamas would be the leading candidate or most likely to win an open election.
I don't think that polls are a good instrument everywhere. In Hungary, there was the most sophisticated American poller. He's a conservative poller. I forgot what his name. He was the poller for Orban. Orban is the Prime Minister of Hungary who was leading there for 14, 15. He's tried 14 years. He tried to change all the constitution and he tried to implant himself as a lifelong leader for Hungary. The polls showed that he is winning the elections. An opponent that came out of nowhere won the majority of that election, surprising everybody. I don't trust polls, especially me that I know very well Israelis and Palestinians. I know the mood. More important, I know the confusion. Sometimes you draft the poll in a way that you are attracting a certain answer. Okay? For example, if you ask a Palestinian now in a poll or an interview, are you against the 7th of October? This question like this is interpreted as, are you against the Palestinian cause? Because of the debate. Automatically the answer will be no. If you ask a Palestinian, are you pro or against killing Israeli kids, women, kidnapping them from their beds? The answer will be, I'm against. What is the 7th of October? Drafting the question is very important in polls. Pollers, they want a product to sell. It's an industry. It's like media. It depends who's sponsoring that media station. There is not a level of professionalism like science. You can drive the results of the polls depending who is financing. There is one polling organization in the Palestinian society, Shqaqi. His source of funding is Qatar. Everybody is building on his results. Everybody. I know very much what's happening inside Gaza. I came from a meeting with Israelis. I was in 2 Zooms with Gaza today. 2 Zooms in a row. 11:30, 1:30. Then I went to that meeting and I came here. I know very much what's happening in the minds of the people, what worries them, what's their ambitions, what they want to achieve. The usual suspects, forget about them. None of them is going to win a coming race. Who is going to win the coming race? I have no idea, but it's not the usual suspects. Do you know who's going to who's going to be racing on the Democratic and Republican ticket for the next presidential race? Do you know it now? For sure? And you are very democratic. You can predict. You are very stable. And at least you know the dates of the elections. So us, for 21 years without elections, I'll tell you there are a lot of Palestinians like me who will take a lead, will organize political parties and will go to the race, and then if all of us want these voices to succeed, then we need not to shy supporting them. What's happening today, first of all, we are not in the era where this conflict is pure Israeli-Palestinian. This conflict is between the moderates in both sides against the radicals and extremes on both sides. Now, the radicals and extremes are not shy to do partnership. Their sponsors, Iran and others, is not shy in supporting them. The moderates on both sides, they are shy to partner with each other. And there is no sponsors to them all over the world. So there is a lot of things to fix. Hamas, when it faces the moderates, it has behind them an open check from the Iranians. And today, elections, okay, you win elections based on a political platform, but also financial resources is the key issue. Anyhow, I think we are preparing ourselves for that election to come. The Israelis are facing elections either September or October in the coming days. They will decide the date. I am sure there will be a change. I am sure. And I am sure it's going to be a positive change. Even some people will say, what's the difference between Bibi and Bennett? Okay, Bennett is more extreme when it comes to Greater Israel. He's a Greater Israel man. Bibi is a pragmatic right-winger. Bennett's ideology is there. Okay? Yet, Bibi became very toxic. Bennett still has a clean sheet regionally and internationally. Bennett can choose to visit any Arab capital and everybody will welcome him. Bibi has all the doors shut in front of him. Yet the coalition with Bennett goes to the left, while the coalition with Bibi went to the right. So Bibi was driven by the extreme right towards destroying any political horizons. That's the aim. If you see now the continuous operation in Lebanon and somewhere else, there was a clash over phone between Trump and Bibi 2 days ago where he called him crazy because, nobody understands why do you keep hitting in Lebanon? Why do you keep moving the yellow line in Gaza against the Trump peace plan? Because he wants to destroy any political horizons. Now Bennett will be pushed by the left wing in his government towards political horizon. So at least window will open. Again, if we are ready for this window, if we are given a chance to elect new leadership, and the new leadership will understand that it's time to work with this new Israeli government, not to confront with it, to try to work with it. Find for a common ground, not seeking for what should be done, but more what could be done. I think we can start something very productive.
I'm going to ask one last question, and then we'll open it up to the students as well. I think one of the obstacles to, let's call it the peace process, that seems to be in place right now is just the sheer number of problems that Israel, from a U.S. foreign policy standpoint, our own government are trying to solve right now. You have the Iran conflict, you have Lebanon, you have a strange new government in Syria. Hamas doesn't seem to really be interested in going along with the Trump peace plan, so that seems kind of stuck in the mud. And as a result, I think where there is big things happening elsewhere, whether before 10-7 it was the Abraham Accords, or post 10-7 it's the regional conflict that is being fought with Iran, the Palestinian issue seems like it's kind of just being put on the back burner. Like, we'll come back to this when Hamas is ready to actually do something about this and disarm or whatever, and in the meantime we're going to kind of just leave it be because we can do more elsewhere. As a Palestinian, my question is, do you share that perspective? Do you think it is still a priority? Or if not, what needs to be done in order to get this out of the place where it feels stuck in the mud? Like, it's just not progressing.
Ignoring the issue is again inviting the next earthquake. 7th of October happened among lots of reasons, including ignoring the Palestinian issue. You cannot manage this conflict. It's not manageable. You need to end it. I think we need to take hard decisions, including, I told you, changing the narrative. Maybe the most important, the hardest decision that we should take as Palestinians is that we need to choose between the two-state solution and the right of return. We cannot have both. If I want two-state solution, I need to redefine the right of return of millions of refugees, to be the right of return to the state of Palestine, not to the state of Israel. This is against the mood, this is against the public acceptance, this is crossing a lot of red lines, but a serious leader needs to explain it in a very responsible way to the people. The Israelis need to take a decision now in which direction they want to go with the Palestinians, either annexation or separation, but they cannot postpone the issue. If it is annexation, well, they have a full right-wing government. Why didn't they do it during the 4 years? I am the dream of those who are looking for annexation in Israel, because I am an annexed Palestinian living in East Jerusalem. I was annexed. East Jerusalem was annexed in the year 1967, and I was given the status of a resident but not a citizen. I cannot vote for the Knesset, but I hold a permanent residency rights. That's why I am here without need of a permit. I can go to Tel Aviv, fly out of Ben Gurion, travel to Eilat, do whatever I want, but I cannot vote. If they want annexation, they need to invite another 5 million Palestinians to have my status. This is our dream, their nightmare. Because in few years, the young generation will say, we don't want the Palestinian state, we want the right to vote. Then I think this is the end of the Jewish democratic state. So they need to decide. I asked my daughter, by the way, I am a father for 9 kids. So I am a Palestinian Haredi in the size of family. I asked one of my daughters, she was 20 when I asked her, at the beginning of the war, now she's 23. I told her, Alice, what do you prefer, one state or two-state solution? She said, Dad, you know lots of Israelis, ask them. I'll accept whatever they pick. If they want 2 states, I'm happy. If they want 1 state, I am happy too. I told her, but listen, there is no majority for 2 states now. Maybe they prefer a 1 state, but under one condition. They want this state to be Jewish, democratic. They want this state to be Jewish. Would you accept this state to be Jewish? She said that. If they give me rights, I can recognize this state as a Buddhist state if they want. Why should I care? They need to give me a passport, the right to vote, equal opportunities. I will be loyal to this state more than them. This is how the young generation is thinking. Individualism, more than national cause and symbols. Maybe my generation will be the last generation that is ready to talk and discuss and negotiate and work for a two-state solution. The coming Palestinian generations They don't care about these things. They don't care about the colors of the flag, the symbols of the state. They don't care about all of this. They want opportunities, better life opportunities. And you cannot imagine how much in common do our kids and their kids have. I'll tell you this second story. During COVID, the last version of the Spider-Man movie was released. So two of my daughters insisted that they want to watch the movie in its first show. We don't have cinema theaters in East Jerusalem. I took them to a cinema theater in West Jerusalem, in the Jewish part of the city. When we entered to the theater, it was full of kids of their age. I noticed something. My daughters, they speak home together in Arabic. When they entered to the movie, they started speaking English, American accent. I don't know why they shifted. And I noticed that all the kids, the Israeli kids, also were speaking to each other in English, in American accent. During some scenes, all of them jumped and started laughing, and I was like an idiot, what's happening? Then they explained to me that these were scenes from previous Spider-Man that came to... So these kids, they listen to the same music, they watch the same movies, they have the same culture, they have the same dreams. In a way or another, these people, maybe in the future, will find themselves going towards a one-state reality. But my daughter told me something when I told her one state or two states. She said anything but the current situation of a two-floor state, where they are in the master floor, we are in the servant floor, I cannot live in this reality. But two states or one state are okay with me. So these are things that are happening. When you get more deep inside the society, you start realizing them. The last story I want to tell you is about a phenomenon that you might see when you walk in the streets of the city. You will see a lot of youngsters from our side, from their side, walking with a necklace with the full map. Now, I can differentiate who is Israeli, who is Palestinian, because the Israelis, they have the Golan Heights extra. The Palestinians, we don't have the Golan Heights, because the Golan Heights is Syrian. For the Israelis, is still part of Israel, the Golan Heights. By the way, both necklaces are the product of the same factory in China. They just wrap it differently and sell it to us. Now, if you want to tell me that any of these kids is really planning to throw the other side to the sea, bullshit. Because one place that I have seen these kids with the necklaces is in the Hebrew University. Everyone comes to the class with his necklace, yet they go to the same class. By the way, in the Hebrew University, 20% of the student body is Palestinians from my city. Something that was not possible 30 years ago when I was released from prison and I wanted to go to university. The Hebrew University is only 10 minutes away from my home, but it was an act of disloyalty to go and walk by the fence of the Hebrew University at that time. Now 20% of the student body comes from my city. It's the choice number one for all the students in my city. Each one goes to the same, these people with the necklaces goes to the same class. They attend classes with the same professors. And sometimes the professor gives a group work for two Israelis, two Palestinians. Each one with his necklace come and start working together and trying a lot of cooperation because they want to succeed in their academic work together and have the highest marks. This necklace and the voice you hear about extremism from both sides is the confusion only. It is the surface. Unfortunately, the whole world judges us, Palestinians and Israelis, from our failures, not from our intentions. We also judge each other, the Israelis and Palestinians, from the surface. And on the surface, there is a lot of ugly things, because we are doing ugly things to each other. There is no Mother Teresa here. We have done very ugly things to each other. It's all on the surface. When you start digging deep, you reach to a reservoir of mutual humanity, common humanity, that brings Israelis and Palestinians together. Nobody can say that Palestinians are not human beings. Nobody can say that Israelis are not human beings. But we are not able to connect at that depth of humanity. When some leaders will be able to understand and do the connection at that level, we will rescue each other from this conflict.
That's, I think, a very good note to end on. I just want to make one more comment. Samer's voice and perspective is very unique. And it's a privilege that you all have been able to hear it today. So if we could, if everyone just give him a thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Passages Pulse. Passages seeks to prepare and empower a new generation of Christian leaders who love God, stand with the Jewish people, and support Israel. To learn more about Passages, follow us on social media or visit www.passagesisrael.org. Until next time, we'll keep you connected to the pulse.